Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Global Career Forum, the international online recruiting event organized for the MBA students from top business schools. We welcome you to today's online session with Uber, and we have the pleasure to welcome for this live session our keynote speaker, Claire Taylor, who is a university recruiter for Uber. As this is a live Q&A session, I do invite all participants to ask your questions in the Q&A panel on the top right side of this WebEx window, and we will convey your questions to Claire. Claire, a warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Dana. Hi, everyone. I hope you're all going really well. Really excited to be here. I'll just start off with a really quick presentation about just the different things that we're working on at Uber at the moment, and then we can quickly go across to doing some Q&A. So I'm Claire, obviously. I'm from Australia. Really quickly, I'm from Australia. Have lived in Amsterdam for the last year, working within the recruitment team. Generally, what we do in campus recruitment is to connect students with full-time positions. So we do this through internships, through things like this, webinars, and also company presentations. And we do this for supporting 45 different countries across Europe, Middle East, and Africa in tech and non-tech positions. So lots and lots of different variety there. There's my email address as well. Feel free to write that one down and feel free to contact me after this session. I'll explain a little bit more about that shortly. So today I'll talk a little bit really quickly about the Uber story, a little bit about more than ride sharing, so what Uber is doing outside of the traditional ride sharing space, really quickly about Uber culture, and then we'll go for Q&A. So in terms of the Uber story, in 2008 the idea was from Travis, push a button, get a ride. It looks very, very old. You can see that it's very, very rudimentary in terms of its design. We then switched to 2010, where it went live in San Francisco, and Paris was our first EMEA city to be launched. From there, 2015 was 1 billion, 2016 was 2 billion, and then in July of last year, we reached our 10 billion mark, which is a huge, huge accomplishment throughout all of our teams, and that is global numbers there. So I guess the question for me to you is, can you imagine where we'll be in 5 years if that's what we've managed to do in the last sort of 4 years? So super exciting stuff there, or less than 4 years even. Uber right now, these numbers change on a weekly basis. So we're in around 600 different cities, 70 countries worldwide, and we have 23,000 employees. When I started, I think it was only 17,000 employees, and that was last year. So super quick and growing business. Those 23,000 employees do not include any of our customer support people, which we have another around 24,000, and also, of course, all our driver partners as well. Then the future of mobility. So to sort of have a look, we're not just all about just getting people from A to B. We want to do it in the most groundbreaking and technology-driven way possible. To do that, to go to the future, we have to go back to the beginning. So all that car ownership. So this is Henry Ford's T model, and in 1908, that is when it launched in terms of owning your own car. And of course, from then, we got just a couple of cars globally. So right now in the world, there's 1.2 billion cars. And the major reason why I mention this is because 95% of the time those cars are sitting idle. So it's having a look at how we can not only represent mobility, but also represent space-saving measures and a whole different range of the ways we can move people globally. The major thing to replace car ownership is to be reliable. This is a little graph in terms of what goes on in our different sites, so a whole bunch of different American cities there, and you can see that real peak just after 12 a.m. because we're really trying to work with cities. We understand that there is public transport and all sorts of different ways of getting around, but we've found more and more that people are needing transport sort of in those later times of the night. And you can see there that is definitely when our peak time is, and of course we're trying to make that as reliable as possible any time of the day, but particularly in those peak times. This is a Giphy that's not quite working, but the way that we're trying to help the global mobility and the future of global mobility is to pair people together. So Uber Pool, most of you or some of you have already used it in the past. An example of how efficient it's become is within the first 3 months of 2018, because we paired Uber pool riders together, they travelled 392 million kilometres, so that is 170 million kilometres saved, 7.5 million litres of petrol, and 19,000 tonnes of CO2. So just those 3 months of last year is making a huge impact. We then took it one step further in terms of express pools. So some of you have also experienced this. When I was back in Melbourne for Christmas, I found it quite entertaining to find a car. So to do this, it's pretty much sort of like a walk and ride. So you have a certain area that you are in, and then you can request a ride and be picked up within the same area as someone else. So just to make it that much more efficient way of doing it. And quite fun in my opinion. So affordable is super important. It's something that we're wanting to improve on more and more in terms of using such innovations as Uber Pool and Uber Express Pool. We can decline the cost for that. The graph on the right there is showing in terms of percentage of public transit and Ubers where that line of the cost to own your own car then benefits by not owning a car, and say for the dark green line, 85% of trips by public transport and 15% with a roundabout average of $20, obviously this is US, Uber rides equals the cost of car ownership. I myself here in Amsterdam do not own a car. That's not specifically because I don't want one, but I also can't drive on this side of the road yet, which is terrifying, but also it's a bike city. But on top of that, I know the majority of people working here in Amsterdam don't have a car, so it's a great example of how we can really work with cities to make this happen. We are, as I mentioned, really complementing public transport. The way we're doing this is a map of London during peak hour in the morning time. Those white dots are train stations, and the blue is different Uber trips that are taken. And so you can really see that last mile is what we're really concentrating on. So that mile from home to, say, a bus or train station, and then from the other end, the train or bus station or area or stop to work. So it's really working with cities. We're definitely not trying to replace trains and buses and things, because they do a fantastic job, but it's just helping everyone out that little bit and reducing the need to have to drive to the train station, for example, with your own car. Partnering with cities, super important initiative that we're really trying to implement worldwide is to see how we can best operate. So this is an example of in Nice, they had their sort of train, or I think it was like more of like a light rail sort of service that they worked out. It's actually cheaper to have at night time to not run it and to have discounted Uber trips. So we call it the Ligne d'Azur. I'm not French, obviously. And those are €6 flat fee rides, which is incredibly sort of groundbreaking in terms of what we're doing at Uber, and to really partner with the cities to make sure everyone gets home at night time without having to run underutilised services. So in terms of more than ride sharing, so what we're really wanting in the future, the Uber's plan, is to have multiple modes of transport in the same app. So by that I mean, for example, tomorrow I'm actually travelling to London, so from my house to, say, the train station, and then I get on the train, and then from the train station in London, say, to the Uber office in London. We're trying to make it so you can go from point A to point B, all within the same area. So I would buy my train ticket through there, my Ubers, maybe a jump bike to get from A to B. So that is the dream, and it is actually being realised in so many different areas already. We launched in Denver, you might have seen, in terms of partnering with Masabi. So that's one of the world's leading online ticket sales in terms of public transport. So it's happening. It's slowly but surely combining everything together, which is definitely a lot more seamless experience. As I mentioned, Jump, it's actually super exciting. It's currently launched in 10 different cities in the US, and in a nutshell, it is using bikes for that shorter distance. So maybe some different areas you're not needing to get a car for, say, 1-2 kilometres, but it's too far to walk. So jump on one of our jump bikes. I've had a ride of them. They're quite fun to have a go around town. And that is being launched in Berlin currently and hopefully coming to some more cities very, very soon. Uber Freight is being launched as well. So in a nutshell, it's having loads in a truck going from A to B and utilising that extra lot of space. Say if they don't have a load to come back to A, they can then utilise this service with some business partners there. Uber Elevate, always really, really interesting side of Uber. In a nutshell, it is flying cars or having that area of ability to travel now, travel in the air, sorry. Now we could have launched this far earlier. We're hoping to launch this properly in 2023. The reason being why it took a little bit longer is because we don't want this service to just be for executives and quite people with wealthy and high incomes. We want this to be for everyone and the ability to use it for everyone. So that's why it's taking that little bit longer to just make sure that it is available. So this question was asked of all the Uber employees around about 4 years ago. If we're able to get you a ride in 5 minutes, what else can we get you in 5 minutes? So Uber Eats was born. So as you can see on the left here, it is a very, very simple marketplace, where on the right we've got some extra players, or as we like to say, like burgers and sushi and all the delicious things. So that is, in terms of our life cycle, that's a quick show of what has happened. So we went from Uber Fresh within the Eats app to Uber Eats, and then launched our Uber Eats globally, and it's going from strength to strength. As I mentioned, it's a three-sided marketplace, so it's a little bit more difficult than just a rider and a driver. We've got our eater, restaurant and delivery partner. You've probably seen them around, when I say them, I mean delivery partners around the tracks. And it is really the next stage of our Uber expansion. So Uber Eats is 3 years old. It's in 40 countries. It's in 400 cities and 150,000 restaurants. So if you can imagine what you're doing 3 years ago, it was not that different maybe from what you're doing now. And in 3 years, it has really grown exponentially. In terms of just a couple of things of what we're looking for in the future, for eaters, definitely affordability and availability. So having, for example, a restaurant open longer, so you can get your special, I don't know, chips and gravy or something at 2 a.m. in the morning if you're really wanting. Curation customization, so maybe, which also pairs with new use cases, so like diets, groceries. So really pairing your choices more with the app's capabilities. So say I want protein-rich foods, those sorts of things. Restaurants really putting those data services and additional services for them to really make those informed decisions. And couriers, of course, more flexible earning opportunities and making sure that they have insurance and all sorts of different areas to make sure that they're safe at work. Now, in terms of Uber culture, I guess this is something that I'm super passionate about. Around about 18 months ago, when we had a change of leadership, we understand 2017 happened. We're definitely growing and have fantastic new initiatives around our cultural norms. They used to be 14 cultural values. We then changed them to 8 cultural norms. The difference is that values stay the same when norms change, adapt and grow. So we really do use these on a daily basis. One of my favorites is definitely we act like owners. One of my favorite parts about working at Uber really is that I own my own job. I'm trusted with my own job. I do my own hours, and it's a lot of fun. And my teammates, of course, have a huge trust factor in me there. We have ERGs as well, so that's one of the great things about working here is that you can absolutely join any of these. I'm actually part of 2 of ERGs, Women of Uber and Uber Pride. It is absolutely fantastic to be part of just some different sorts of things that are going on in the office. Looking forward to different conferences and different ways of getting involved in the community. So the recruitment process, which is incredibly important, it's something that we get asked on a daily basis. So what we have is around 2 to 3 months, and this is kind of similar from internships and also for full-time roles. Obviously, it does depend on the team in terms of which one it is, but in terms of applying online, for a full-time role, we suggest getting in touch around 2 to 3 months before you are available to start work. So there's no point in getting in touch with us if you want to start in December, unfortunately, because Uber operates so quickly, it's always really difficult to know exactly which roles will be open and we will be recruiting for at that stage. From there, we have an application review. So myself or one of our recruiters here will have a look at your role, your experience, see if you're suitable for the role. Then you'll have a chat with a recruiter. That's me. Usually it's quite broad. The two things that we're really looking for is why you want to work at Uber. That's the number one question that I'll ask you. And a lot of people say, oh, flying cars, or yeah, it seems cool. We really want to know why you want to work for Uber, not specifically what is going on in our newsroom. We know exactly generally what's going on in our newsroom, but we want to know why you are passionate about Uber, because definitely being surrounded by passionate and interested people makes our work a lot more fun. Then you'll have some kind of exercise. That exercise will be to do with maybe some analytics or even a creative exercise, and then from there you'll have a hiring manager screen, which is usually a 30-45 minute screen, and that's more delving into the role, and then team interviews from there. But I'm more than happy to answer any questions in terms of that process, in terms of the sorts of things that we look for. Obviously at Uber we have hundreds of roles open, hundreds and hundreds that we're looking at the moment. I recruit for Europe, Middle East and Africa, so I can't speak specifically on American roles, but we can always get in touch and I can try and refer you to someone that works within that market. I guess the main thing that we're always looking for is someone that's super flexible, able to pick up the role and run with it, to ramp up quickly, and analytics. Analytics is the most important part of our job, being data focused and working with data on an everyday basis. So now it's time for Q&A. Hopefully I spoke not too fast. Just wanted to get a whole bunch of information across to you, but now I'd love to hear your questions.
It's perfect. Thank you, Claire.
No worries.
So one of the things that you mentioned at the very end was that it's important to show passion to work at Uber. And a question that stood out was, what's different for you about working here at Uber than anywhere else that you've worked at?
Absolutely. That's a really easy one. Then again, I've worked in some really strange places. So I used to work for Cirque du Soleil in Australia, so traveling around the countryside. So it is quite hard to sort of compare apples to apples. But my favorite thing about working for Uber and the difference of working for Uber is really the trust that you're given. You're treated like an adult. You work with incredibly smart people. There's not one weak person in our teams. What I mean by that is everyone is so good at their job, which makes doing my job a lot easier.
Perfect, thank you. And then a question coming in. Is the MBA valued as such, or are you more looking for good fit, good people, irrespective of education experience?
We don't look for one sort of cookie cutter kind of candidate. That's the first thing I'll say. That being said, majority of our executive team have MBAs, so that is a good acknowledgement and a good understanding of, yes, we absolutely do value MBAs. However, some people come to us from the oil and gas industry. Some people come to us from a fashion industry or a retail industry. That's generally why we do look at more your competencies, and we are competency based in terms of our recruiting, rather than specifically we need someone that has 10 years of X experience, because a lot of the time that's not always the right person for the role.
Perfect. For recruitment in IMEA, the positions that you currently have open, are you recruiting also students from other parts of the world, or do they have to be European nationals?
So the thing that we don't offer, unfortunately, for any of our internships is immigration support. So we are more than happy to recruit people from other universities globally. You just have to have working rights in the country that you're wanting to work in. The reason being is because usually usually by the time we organise visas and all sorts of things, it's either too late, or if it's a short-term internship, then it's not always in our timelines as well. However, for our full-time positions, 100% we do sponsor people.
Perfect. Another question. If there are multiple jobs of interest, can a candidate apply to all, or does she need to choose? And if it did not work out with one job, can they apply again for another position?
For sure. What I'd suggest is not applying for like 150 roles at the same time. Generally, we don't look at that super favourably, but what I always suggest is having a look at 2 to 3 roles that suit your experience level, number one, in terms of, say, years. Usually in the job description, they'll say you need to have 3 years or 7 years plus, around about those. Really have a look at that as your first point of call. And then, yeah, really narrow down the roles that you think that you could wake up every single day and love to go to work for. In terms of applying for multiple roles at once, I'd probably say, yeah, definitely apply for maybe 1 to 2 roles. If you are unsuccessful in either of those, have a look at some other roles that you can apply for, but you can absolutely apply for more roles even if you're not successful for that specific role. The reason being is because we have all sorts of different hiring managers with all sorts of different teams and priorities at that stage, and potentially just because your profile isn't right for that particular role doesn't mean that another hiring manager might be super interested in you as well. So just don't apply for more than like 15 roles at a time, trust me.
Perfect. Another question coming in from Jose regarding the recruitment process you explained briefly. He wants to know if you could explain a little bit more about the exercise part. Is it like a consulting case, or is it a take-home assignment?
For sure. It does depend on the team. I will say that first of all. Majority of roles, I'd say like 95% of roles, we do get our candidates to sit an analytics exercise. It's a take-home exercise in terms of it takes around 2 hours. Once you start, you can't stop in terms of you have to keep on going with it. What it is getting 2 CSV files and answering some multiple choice questions based on those. What we're really looking for is number one, your analytic skills in terms of working with data, your general number skills and mathematics, but on top of that, you know, having some time pressures working towards that, and also, yeah, your ability to work with different areas of data as well. So that's analytics in a nutshell. Creative exercises and company sort of, what are they called? City presentations. We have lots of different names for them, but city presentations are the ones that are kind of sticking. It's having a look at, say, launching, I want you to launch Moscow, or I don't know, somewhere. How would you go about it? So it's more of a conversation tool during your interviews, with your team interviews, to sort of show what sort of work you can do. So you would take that time, do that assignment, and then present it sort of as a business case to the team.
Great. Before, you also mentioned to not apply in advance for the openings because the business changes quickly and you cannot predict everything that's going to open in a few months' time. But Jane is asking you, when will the Uber IMEA MBA internship applications window open? What roles will you be recruiting for?
I'm so excited. Hopefully we're just getting approvals and wrapping up a couple of things, but we should get the green light on those within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and I hope that they will be open. They'll definitely be opening in March, and I'd be happy to reach out and chat to anyone in regards to those. In terms of the sorts of roles that we're recruiting for, it's generally operations and marketing sort of areas. We offer roles all across EMEA depending on the teams. So for last year, for example, we had Madrid, Dubai, London, and Germany, and somewhere in Germany, I think it's Berlin, and Amsterdam. So that's sort of in a very, very short, the kinds of areas that we're looking for, but we are quite flexible as well on the different areas and the different teams. So it's what, in terms of the MBA process, we have a general chat to you, see what you're interested in, then we have a whole list of different projects from the different teams. We ask you which ones that you would be interested in, and then we go from there and what locations. So it is more of a tailored interview process. It's not just as simple as you have a panel and you just have to impress the panel and then we put you somewhere. It is more tailored towards the actual team that you'll be working with.
Excellent. Perhaps another bit more business-related question. Is Uber planning to expand in the more general delivery market as opposed to food delivery alone? And who do you see yourself competing with in that case?
Ooh, delivery market. I'm not sure. That, to be honest, hasn't really come up a lot. Obviously, I mentioned that we're launching Uber Freight, so that is one type of delivery in terms of, I guess, larger goods, not, you know, your online shopping, for example, unless it's quite a large online shop. So I haven't actually heard any of that. It could be really fun though. Maybe I'll mention to someone. I guess our main competitors are always the people within more local competitors. There's not really one. The great thing about Uber is that it is so international. It can work on lots of different markets. But yeah, there's not really one that's like throughout all the different countries. For example, in Australia, it's more I think it's Foodora or Deliveroo versus here it's more Tazbazorg in terms of the Uber Eats area, and then yeah, there's lots of different players in the market, which keeps it good. We love competition.
Great. Question from Rennie asking, is there any way we can easily reach out to people to talk about their experience and the position itself, and maybe we can relate this to the company culture? Are people approachable?
Yeah, for sure. People are super approachable. We definitely, one of our cultural norms is we value ideas over hierarchy, and I definitely attest to that it happens on a daily basis. People are super approachable. I can have a look and see if I can connect you with some of our current interns. They aren't specifically MBAs, but we have quite a few people that have transferred from being an MBA intern to a full-time role as well, which is always something we look out for, and we have different feedback channels that we implement to make sure that you go through that process fairly with all of the different managers in different areas. The reason being, and I say that in terms of fairness, is because, for example, you might do your MBA internship over summer in Uber Eats. That doesn't mean that you are only going to get a role in Uber Eats. You could then go to anything from ComOps, so community operations, to rides, or even Uber for Business. So it doesn't, the line of business doesn't restrict you.
Perfect. Maybe quickly, if we can discuss also the training and professional development. Are there any training programs that are available to employees of Uber?
Training programs. Yeah, we have a large L&D department. For our interns, we don't offer our Uberversity. However, that comes with our full-time employees, which is super interesting. What that is a 2.5-day sort of summit that happens here in Amsterdam. So every Nuber, we call them, so like new Ubers, comes to Uberversity, another play on words there, love it. And they come here for 2.5 days and learn a sort of a deep dive on the business. We're trying to implement a sort of a smaller version of that, but that is one of our major training programs. In terms of the different, I'd say more opportunities rather than specific training programs, we run a nomad program, so that is you can go to different areas of the world. Maybe you go for 6 months or 3 months on assignment, which I think is super exciting and important. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Perfect. How long do MBAs stand in a job at Uber before they advance to the next challenge within the company? What is the average tenure of MBAs at Uber?
Do you mean like MBAs after, like when they've got their full-time role?
Yeah.
So we move a lot around Uber. I've already had 3 different jobs in different areas in terms of it's all recruitment and campus-based, but different roles. But what I can say is that we actually had to put a limit on how often you can change roles. of like one year that you have to stay in the same role. So it does happen on a regular basis in terms of moving on to different things, moving to different teams. What I can say is that usually it's always the new shiny toy that people get really excited about. The example I'll give there is that we have people that love working in startups, and the rides business is a little bit more mature now, but we have sort of the idea of a startup within a startup. So Uber Eats, Jump, Uber Freight are very much startup within a startup. So that's the shiny new toy at the moment. We have lots of people that are transferring to new roles, which keeps it quite fresh and new. But yeah, people are always moving around in all sorts of different areas.
Excellent. Well, I'm just keeping an eye out for the time. Perhaps any last minute advice to the students who are interested to apply?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess be in touch with us. I'd love to chat with all of you. You can reach me at that email address that I shared at the very start, but I'm sure that I can share that with you as well. And then, yeah, I guess just be on the lookout for different roles that you're really interested in, and yeah, just have a chat with us. I think it's the most important part. We're not like a scary recruitment process kind of people. We're very much just have a chat, see where it goes, and just be really avid about your experiences and your passion towards the roles.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking your time to be with us here today.
No worries. So good. I hope everyone learned something. That's all I ever ask.
It was perfect. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Have a really good rest of your day. Bye.